Superior Services Dave Miller is back with me, and we are on the cusp of Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's and all that fun stuff, and I think we're probably all kind of looking forward to that this year, have a little bit of cheer in our lives, right? So, but that means, again, that there's lots of things that we're doing in our home that we don't do all year long. We're cooking more, we're putting up holiday lights, we're putting out outside lights, and I know you kind of have a new part to your business where you're dealing with electrical things.
Sure.
So talk to us about how we can be safe in doing the things that I just mentioned.
Sure. So along with the heating and air and the plumbing, we launched an electrical division, and we're doing electrical service. And it's always good to just remind people while they're getting lights down and stringing up lights that you really need to be looking at what you're plugging into and how many things you're plugging into.
Right.
We like to remind people, maybe, hold on to those cords, and if you feel like they're getting warm, you might have too many things plugged into them.
Yes.
And a lot of people like to plug outdoor lights in, and they should probably have ground force protectors on those things in case it gets wet because they are outdoors. And so you just want to make sure you're protected, because a lot of Christmas lights, I would say 90% of them are do-it-yourselfers, because you're going to go home and just you don't really need a qualified professional, but
right.
Sometimes if you don't know, you might take some shortcuts that could at the end of the day hurt you.
Yes. And then obviously your mainstay has been HVAC for a long time, and that's where people know you originally. Talk to us a little bit about, when you are, for example, cooking more, you are having more electricity going on, you're putting things up in your house that aren't normally there.
Right.
Does that affect your system?
It does and it doesn't. So the main service call we see around the holidays is that air conditioning units are in attics. So is your Christmas tree and your Christmas lights. And a lot of people either stack things on their equipment, next to their equipment.
Okay.
And so when they go to bring them down, we have safety switches and things like that for water that protect the system. But if you jar them or knock them loose, you could put them in the off position to where you now are creating a service call because you knock them loose.
Right.
Plus, it's not good to have things on top of the units, especially if you have gas furnaces. It's a gas fire in your furnace,
right.
And you don't want combustibles near it. So you want to keep that area clean and neat. And then if you are going in the attic, make sure if you do knock something, look at what you might have knocked so that you don't end up having to call us for what we call a nuisance call. Because as much as we want to make money and charge people, we don't want to go out there and flip a switch and have to charge you
right.
to do it. We feel bad
Back
about
on.
it. Right,
Yeah.
Exactly. That'll be $100.
Yeah, right, exactly. Thank you very much.
So.
Well, and you talk about that on the inside of keeping it clear of debris and so forth. I'm assuming that goes for the outside unit as well, because right now we're seeing so many leaves falling and things like that. So
Sure. Yeah. So since we do a lot of pine straw and mulch around our houses, what ends up happening is every year they kind of wash away and we put new mulch. And you'll notice, if you really look closely, that there's probably an extra 8 inches of mulch around your house that just over years you just don't recognize it. And they usually build up around outdoor units. Next thing you know, you have 6 or 8 inches of mulch or pine straw around the bottom of your air conditioner.
Right.
And that's not allowing air to flow through there. Plus, it's going to add corrosion because it's going to stay moist, and things get all in there and whatnot. So yeah, you definitely want to keep those areas free as well, and can't hurt to hit them with a hose. If you're gardening or whatnot, wash any salt water that might be off of them, or pull some weeds that might be sticking out of them, things like that.
Yeah, and as we're also moving into this, and as we said, going from warm to cool to warm. Sometimes around here we get it one day where it's 60 and then the next day it's 80. So we want to have the heat on and then we want to have the air on.
Sure.
Is it okay to go flipping back and forth between the two?
Sure. Sometimes, we will see that certain systems and certain houses do get a musty smell when they go back and forth to heat and cool. And that's a lot of times because the coil had some water on it and was wet, and then an hour later it's now been hot for the heat, and it's going. And when you do that a couple of times, you sometimes do get a musty smell. So what I tell everybody is, let that play out for a day or two. And then usually once you get into an all heating or an all cooling cycle, it usually goes away. Okay. If it doesn't, then have us come out and let's see what's going on.
Then it might be a problem.
Right.
But if you smell it right away, no panic.
Especially because you have electric heat strips too, which when they get dust on them, they tend to smell a little like burnt toast in a sense.
Yeah.
And it usually burns off after a couple minutes.
Okay, so good to know not to panic.
Yes.
Thanks so much, Dave.
Absolutely.